Okay, this is the presentation on safety in science. This is anyone who thinks there's safety in numbers hasn't looked in at the stock market pages. All right, so the goals for this presentation are: number one, students will learn how to perform safe practices in the lab. You will understand the safe use and disposal of materials, and you will understand your role in any sort of emergency or evacuation plans that we have in this class. So the first thing is mechanics safety. The first 6 weeks is primarily mechanics experiments. There's very small risks of any sort of serious injury. In fact, there's very small risk of even minor injury. The only really possible minor injuries that can occur are from heavy or fast moving objects. You can pinch your finger with some of the weights that we use. You can get a splinter from some of the wooden objects. But that's really about it. We will have flying objects when we shoot marbles using the CPO marble launcher. And so you could wear goggles to prevent it from hitting your eye. But really, with mechanics labs, there's very little risk of any sort of injury. All the injuries would be minor. Things like splinters we can deal with tweezers, or you can go to the nurse. Any sort of heavy object can bruise, and we can ice it, and we can deal with things like that. Glass and ceramic safety. So when we start to talk about heat and things like that, we will use some glass. A couple things with glass. Glass is obviously breakable. We do have the glass that is resistant, so it doesn't break easily, but it does break. When it does break, it can cause cuts. One of the things that's also involved with glass is whenever you have glass that's heated, you can't really tell how hot it is. Of course, unless it's hot enough where it's actually glowing, but you can't really tell how hot glass is, so if you just pick it up, you can burn yourself really easily. And also, glass has liquids in it. Because of that, if you were ever to drop some sort of glass or some sort of liquid-filled glass, there's some cleanup things that you need to worry about. So number one, whenever that happens, you and your partner one person needs to stand over the mess, the other person needs to locate the teacher. You are never supposed to pick up the glass with your bare hands. We will dry it and we will sweep it up and we will dispose of it in a safe manner, but you're never to attempt to do this on your own. Fire safety. So we deal with fire. We probably will not deal with fire. We use hot plates more than anything in physics. But a couple of things you can do is you can control the gas flow. There is an emergency cutoff switch for gas that's at the front. There's a switch on my desk, and there's also a red button that can cut off the gas at any point. Whenever you're using fire, just like with anything that's hot, you can use heat-resistant gloves or tongs to pick up things that are hot. Okay, if we are dealing with fire, there are a couple of things that you should know. There's a fire extinguisher. You should be able to locate that at the front of the classroom. And there's a fire blanket that's located at the back of the classroom. Once again, you have the emergency switch. And one other option that you have, if something does catch on fire, there is a emergency shower that's located in the middle of the lab area. You pull down on that, you'll have a whole lot of water that'll go everywhere, but it will put any sort of fire out. Chemical safety. So once again, we're not going to deal with a whole lot of chemicals. That was chemistry. But there are some things that we will deal with when we talk about thermodynamics, and it is possible that you can get particulates or particles in your eye. If you do so, if you have chemicals that's on your skin, you can use the safety showers you see here. It puts out a lot of water very quickly. So obviously do not play with it, because that is one of the very major lab violations that you can have. But it can be used to put out fire or put chemicals off the skin. If you get something in your eye, there's an eye wash that's attached to the shower. Don't wait for me if you get something in your eye. Go ahead and start washing it out immediately, and have your partner come notify me, and we'll work it out from there. I've never, in my whole time that I've been here, have had to use the chemical shower, or have I had to use the eye wash, because the experiments that we do, they're not involved like they were with chemistry with those sorts of activities. Now, we do have electrical safety. In the second semester, we will use electricity quite a bit. The level of electricity that we use is generally very safe, to the point where you can't get shocked, even if you tried, for the most part. But there are a couple of things that you have that we use as a rule. So number one, we work only with disconnected circuits. So in other words, you play with the circuit, you would manipulate the wires and so forth, you would finish, and then you would turn the circuit on. You never work with a live circuit. Okay. Number two, every outlet has a circuit breaker, which has a test and a reset button. If for any point you're working with an electrical function like the CPO timer and it doesn't work, the first thing you do is you check the on-off switch. The second thing that you check is the circuit breaker. You push one of the buttons to reset the circuit breaker to see if it had been tripped before. Next, there is a teacher switch that is a cutoff for the electricity on my desk, as well as the red emergency stop button. Both of those are on the presentation desk at the front, and both can be used to cut off the electricity, as well as the gas or the water or anything else in the lab. Medical emergency. So a lot of times we don't really think about these medical emergencies, but we did have one occur last year in which we did have a medical emergency happen in the lab. It didn't have anything to do with the lab, but at the same time, the procedures are in place for this particular case. If a medical emergency happens, it is my job to tend to the medical emergency right away. 3 groups of students need to identify themselves, and you can do it very, very quickly. One person has to go talk to the nurse, which is immediately downstairs. A second group will go to Ms. Getty's office, which is at the end of the hallway, and a third group will go talk to Ms. Jenkins immediately across the hallway as well, and all other students are to leave and go into the hallway immediately. Okay, like I said, this did happen last year, and it's one of the things that we were prepared for, so we didn't have any issues with it, and everything turned out to be just fine, but you need to be aware that medical situations do arise. Okay, our fire evacuation. Our route from this classroom is to go down the main hallway and out by the buses. Now, for some reason, everybody wants to use the back stairs. That is our secondary evacuation route, but that stairway gets backed up with people trying to exit from many different classrooms. So our primary route is through the main hallway and out by the buses. And we have had several fire incidences in the last 4 years where dryers catch on fire, different fires in the cafeteria and so forth, so we need to be prepared for that. Tornado evacuation. We had one of these last year, as you will know. The key to a tornado evacuation is we are to evacuate downstairs in the room that is immediately under ours, which is 3006. You are to go to an interior wall and you are to duck and cover. Now it shows these students in the hallway. We will not be in the hallway. We will be in room 3006, and you will be up against the walls in that particular room. Other emergencies, if there was any sort of police emergency, it is my responsibility to lock the door, and you are to have your back to the wall, and you are supposed to be, the primary thing is you are supposed to be out of line of sight. So nobody should be able to see you from the windows or the door or anything along those lines. Alright, so violating lab rules. Any sort of minor breach of lab rules, I'll talk to you if it's repetitive or if it's pretty serious, or it's a big deal but not major. You could get some sort of disciplinary action. I really don't have any problems. Most people are generally pretty good. You need to remember to be safe for yourself and those people around you. Any major breach of the lab rules will result in a removal from the lab, and you will be given a 0. And an alternative assignment is in line with the RISD grading policy. Any sort of major breach of lab rules, it constitutes academic dishonesty because you are not following the rules that are expected of you. You are a danger to yourself and those around you, and you will be removed from the lab. And additionally, you will get an office referral for a major or serious breach of lab rules. Serious. So beyond major breaches, things that are done on purpose or that are repetitive, breaches of lab rules will result in a permanent removal of the lab from the rest of the year, office referral, and parental meeting to discuss this removal from the lab. Now, I have never had anything other than minor breaches that I have had to address just by discussion, but there's a first time for everything. So just be aware that these are the procedures that are in place. Alright, so you should now understand how to perform safe practices in a lab. Now, you may say, well, we didn't really cover to understand the use of safe materials and disposal. We did when we talked about glass and chemicals and so forth. We didn't get into too much about the disposal of materials because most of the things that we use in this class actually will not be disposable. Everything is repetitive. We're not going to have chemicals that we have to worry about pouring down the drain or anything like that. You should also understand your role in evacuations, medical emergencies, fire drills, tornado drills, and other sorts of situations. Now, for your homework for tonight, this is what you have to accomplish tonight. Number 1, you have to study these notes. Okay, number 2, you need to obtain a 3-inch notes binder and a lab spiral, and you should be able to do that by tomorrow. Okay, number 3, you need to access and read the syllabus at this website. This is my website, wiki.rockwallisd.org/groups/jchandler. You need to go there and you need to bookmark it, be it on your phone right now, on your computer at home, wherever it is, you need to bookmark this site. Okay, and you need to remember recover, or create a UT Quest login. If you have no idea what UT Quest is, don't worry about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But if you were in chemistry last year with Mr. Moss or Miss McMahon or I think Miss Harlan, you should have a UT Quest login. You need to go and you need to recover or remember that password because we will go through UT Quest tomorrow. Finally, you do have a quiz tomorrow. The quiz will cover not only this presentation on safety, but also the syllabus. So when I say access and read the syllabus, I mean you really need to do that because you have a quiz over it tomorrow.